you may be surprised to know that the U.S. does not have, and we have not had, a comprehensive national energy policy. The congressional bills that have been passed through the years never took a broad approach that encompassed all forms of energy. They never really considered how energy is produced and consumed and where new supplies must come from. Now, we believe this policy should incorporate 4 principles. The first is energy supply diversity. Second, greater energy efficiency. Third, technological innovation. And last, sound environmental stewardship, including addressing climate change. So I'm going to explain, starting with supply diversity. We need more energy from all forms. This includes alternative and renewable sources like solar, wind, geothermal power, biofuels, and others. But there is, to borrow a well-known phrase, an inconvenient truth, we also need more fossil fuels and nuclear power. Alternative energy cannot come online fast enough at the scale required to replace them, and not for decades to come. So for these reasons, it makes no sense to pay for alternative energy development by taking money away from the oil industry. Society still badly needs more oil and gas development. Fossil fuels, oil, gas, and coal, by any reputable institution, is going to still supply 80 or more % of our energy needs for several decades to come. In fact, we should encourage this here at home by opening for exploration some of the promising areas that are now off limits. The central and western Gulf of Mexico today yields 25% of our domestic oil and gas production. Now, this keeps hundreds of billions of dollars at home that would otherwise go to purchase oil and gas imports. There also may be substantial energy potential in the eastern Gulf of Mexico and off the Atlantic and the Pacific coast, but it takes time to find out just what may be there. Moving on, a comprehensive policy should also encourage the development of unconventional fossil fuels, such as oil sands, oil shale, and natural gas hydrates. Now, these are abundant. They're located within our borders or very close by to the lower 48. For example, Canada's Athabasca oil sands are one of the world's largest hydrocarbon deposits. Their recoverable resources are 8 times U.S. oil reserves, and they could grow with new technology. Production is rising, and the oil sands from Canada could produce 20% of what the United States needs in oil by the year 2020. Now, the second tenet of a comprehensive policy must be improving our energy efficiency. Since the 1970s, the United States has doubled its economic output per unit of energy consumed, but we can and we must do far more. Currently, the public is driving less. So gasoline demand is down. Sales of more fuel-efficient cars are up, and there's a much greater awareness of the need for energy efficiency, both in our homes and certainly at work and in our use of transportation. Now, the government can drive further improvement through public education and economy-wide efficiency standards. Third, the new energy policy should promote innovation. Now, we can do this by encouraging research and development, both in our companies, academic institutions, everywhere, any place that does research. Our industry is making substantial investments already. We spend $400 million a year on technology and research. Now, the government can encourage more of them by more research by granting incentives, but we also need public investments in technologies that, for one reason or another, can't be funded by the industry, such as those that need very long lead times or need very highly advanced science. Examples include nuclear fusion and fuel cells. We would also benefit from greater and more effective support of our educational system. And fourth, we must achieve these priorities while serving as good environmental stewards. As part of this, our industry must be willing to invest in cleaner and cleaner forms of energy. In fact, we are the only U.S.-based integrated energy company to call for a mandatory national framework to address greenhouse gas emissions. We belong to the U.S. Climate Action Partnership, which is an organization of many different industries in the United States and environmental NGO groups. Now, the U.S. CAP calls for national legislation to slow, stop, and then reverse the growth of these emissions. Now, our company operates up on the north slope of Alaska in the Arctic, as well as in the Arctic of offshore Russia. And we're highly vulnerable to warming temperatures. I mean, we see the ice melting firsthand. And in addition, we operate in 40 other countries. Now, some countries already have greenhouse gas regulations in place, and in others, regulations are imminent. So there's a growing international movement towards taking action, and we feel the United States has a special role to play in leadership. But we first need a well-founded national climate policy. Our country clearly faces serious challenges, not just economic, but also in terms of achieving energy and climate security. And there certainly are solutions. We have to come up with the solutions. But that is if we can rally public support, political will, and build a consensus for action. We've got to stop trying to figure out who we can blame all the time. It seems like things just don't work. We've got to figure out how we can work with each other and come up with give and take and compromise to find solutions. So thank you very much for having me.